Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down recruiting efforts across the country during this unusual time. Teams, coaches, coaching staffs looking for the most opportune way through social media, FaceTime, those sorts of things to continue to build relationships with these players during the recruiting cycle for 2021 now. Talking Arizona State with Michelle Gardner from the Arizona Republic. All right, Michelle, we appreciate you stopping by as always. We've talked about Herm Edwards' unique ability to connect to people and much younger people than himself. He's brought in a couple commits here just in the last few days. One, a quarterback out of California, 26th rated pro-style quarterback, Finn Collins. And you had an opportunity to speak with him.
Yes, I did. And he's an interesting, it's an interesting dynamic. He's a pro-style quarterback. If you look at the timeline, he could be the guy that when Jaden Daniels leaves after his junior year, which we all think he will, then Finn could be the guy to step in. So, you know, the one thing that he said he was really impressed, ASU has what they call a Sparky Hour, where their coaches gather in an auditorium and they call all the recruits. And it gives the recruits a chance not just to talk to their position coach, but Herm Edwards as well. So Finn talked to the coaches in this little Sparky Hour that they had earlier this week. And the one thing he said that impressed him was that Herm and the position coach asked to talk to his parents. And he said no other school that he had talked to said, hey, can we talk to your parents? So Herm asked to get the parents, you know, into the picture too, so that they could ask their questions and see if they had any concerns. So that's just Herm kind of reaching another level.
And he's doing that. And as we look at the division competition coming forward, a lot of people are really liking what Herm Edwards is doing at Arizona State, and with USC faltering, with Utah, certainly a very strong program, but having its limitations in what it can do nationally, and the rest of the programs not necessarily being at a level in which they're going to typically compete for championships, that Arizona State has an opportunity here to really make a move in the Pac-12 South. And I know I'm getting away from the recruiting, but the more you talk about Herm Edwards and the more we've had discussions in the past, it just seems as though there's a real opportunity for him to take hold of that division.
Well, I think this year it's fair game. I mean, Utah graduated a ton of guys. They graduated people that have been, 3-4 year starters. And we know because ASU has started so many freshmen, it's, Utah can go out and recruit the world and they might bring some very good people in. But when you're true freshmen and freshmen or sophomores out there playing, it's different than having kids that are 3-4 year starters out there. So Utah, I don't want to say might step back to the pack a little, but they're far from the juggernaut that they have been. And like you said, USC, who knows what's going to happen day to day over there. So I think with ASU's developed, I think they're very much in the picture.
And very much in the picture for the future, a prospect out of Michigan. So the pipeline doesn't apparently break down anywhere. If Herm Edwards can go to Michigan and pull guys out of there, we've got Caleb Banks, prospect on the offensive line, defensive end position out of Michigan. Your thoughts about him and some metrics on him?
Well, he's listed as offensive line, but he played both sides of the ball in high school. He's projected as a defensive end at ASU. The dynamic for ASU is going to change drastically because they are now in the process of transitioning from the 3-3-5 defense to a more conventional 4-man front. So that's where Caleb Banks is going to come in handy. And who knows if he's going to be ready to play right away. But they're going to have to start recruiting players for this new style of defense that they have. So, a lot of the players that were in place were the ones that were in place for the 3-3-5, and now they're transitioning. So getting a defensive end and getting other edge pass rushers is going to be very big moving forward.
Michelle, when you look at this team, unable to participate in spring practice like basically everybody across the country, some teams
they did have 7 practices. They started.
I was just going to make the comment that a lot of schools got in 3 to 5, 7 practices for Arizona State, but not the full complement of 15 practices. So where would you target on this team to have been most affected by that? in a negative way that really needed the development, needed to see those young guys step up and make an impact to get them ready for August?
Well, they're changing both coordinators. So you're basically bringing in an entirely new offense. I mean, Zach Hill's offense is going to be completely different than anything we've seen. And they have a new defensive coordinator too, in Antonio Pierce, although Antonio is in the program and has been in the program. He and Marvin Lewis, I mean, is it anything better than getting Antonio Pierce and Marvin Lewis to be your co-defensive coordinators? So, but they are changing defenses. So when you're changing both offense and defense, spring practice is pretty important. So I guess the only good thing is that they were the first Pac-12 team to start, and they did get 7 practices in. And some schools didn't. I don't think Colorado got any, and they've got a new coach and a new coaching staff, and they got 0 practices in. So as much as ASU might be behind the 8 ball, there are teams behind the 8 ball worse.
And as you mentioned, for anybody unfamiliar out there, Marvin Lewis, a former NFL head coach with the Cincinnati Bengals, then you've got a co-defensive coordinator who's won a Super Bowl or 2.
Right.
So there you go. It's pretty good, both from the standpoint of the on-the-field coaching and then just having that automatic credibility that the kids are going to listen, and the kids are also going to be attracted through the recruiting process, wanting to go to the next level and learn from guys like that. So you work the angles from all aspects, and it's all positives for Arizona State.
Well, there's one thing that actually quite interesting as far as how these guys prepare and this NFL pipeline and how it factors. Antonio Pierce had a long talk with Brandon Ayuk about finances. He said, you don't realize that you're going to go be in a different tax bracket. You're going to be a millionaire, and they're going to take a lot of your money. You're not making $1 million. And Brandon Ayuk had no clue, like, what all was involved in signing this contract and, setting up your finances. In Antonio Pierce, they're thinking that far ahead. This is what the position you want to be in. Every kid desires to be in. They've never had to think about that. And that's how far ahead and forward thinking this coaching staff is. It's not like, let's not just coach him up. We need to coach him up, and we need to set him up for the future and have him now start thinking about the things he needs to think about long term.
And that's great to hear for the student athlete. That's great to hear for Arizona State. Again, hitting this recruiting process from all angles and being able to think of that element of it. And that's only going to get word's going to get out there that that's another factor involved in another advantage to going to Arizona State. Michelle Gardner on the line from Arizona Republic, helping us break down Arizona State's NFL draft status with Eno Benjamin, Brandon Ayuk and company, and then also their continued efforts on the recruiting trail despite all the challenges. Michelle, we appreciate you stopping by.
Anytime.